like to welcome you all to the West Virginia Penitentiary Ghost Hunt. Now, if you ask an inmate about ghosts, they will tell you that if a man dies in prison, his spirit is trapped here forever. We've had a total of 998 deaths here throughout our history. So if that's true, we've got a lot of spirits hanging around here.
A prison is a very horrific place where horrific executions have taken place and inmates are fighting with each other and the crimes that the inmates committed to get there. So it creates this really horrific experience.
The things that leave your imagination enough room to create the suspension of disbelief and to fill in the blanks are the ones that truly, fire the imagination and get you the most scared because they're very personal. You supply the scares.
We are here to launch The Suffering, but I think more importantly, to sort of feel the energy and what it's like in this prison, because it's a very similar prison to what The Suffering is set in, remarkably.
Now, historically speaking, we've had a very violent history here. At one time, we were on the top 10 list of the most violent prisons in the country. We've had a total of 998 deaths here, 510 escapes, and 94 executions.
You go into the maximum security cell block and you see the fencing everywhere and you see the cell that you practically hit your head on going into it. And you just feel this sense of, wow, this is what's happened to humans in this place.
There's a lot of paranormal activity here because there's so many emotions, from sadness to despair. I think that leaves an imprint for sure, and I think that's a lasting thing. There was a guy that died in that tub. He actually killed himself. It freaks me out. I don't like the tub.
I think that video games are perhaps the best way to explore horror because it's an interactive experience versus being a passive experience. After running through the game and literally walking through these halls, I realized how similar they were in feel and tone, look, even color.
We decided to set The Suffering in a fictional prison off the Maryland coast. It's been an island that's sort of had a legacy of evil over 500 years. And then we came here. It was sort of interesting to see its parallels to what we had developed on our own in terms of just that sense of history you get here, that 1,000 people have been killed on these 2 acres, most of them by homicide over the last 150 years.
To start off with the protagonist, Torque, walking into the main cell block on death row. You don't know why he's there. You hear other prisoners talking about his crime, so you know you're accused of murder. But the whole point of the story is that as Torque, you don't know if you really committed this crime.
Don't you know who that is?
Why should I?
That's Torque, the man himself.
You're in prison, you killed your wife and kids. You're seeing these horrific images. As you become more insane and your rage meter goes up, you'll see split-second frames of the murder that you committed or you didn't commit. It's a game of discovery about Torque and the history of the island and how it all ties together. And that's actually affected by how the player plays the game.
So you'll actually hear voices telling you, kill him, and then you hear your wife's voice, no, let him go. So you have this good and bad sort of pulling at you as you go through the game.
I guess that grew out of our desire to sort of explore the morality of the player character. We wanted what the player did during the game to determine, whether Torque is guilty or not.
I mean, there's very few games where you can really choose good or evil and have it affect the outcome of the game.
Well, the main difference that we're doing is really making it more of an action horror experience as opposed to survival horror.
There are a lot of games out there that are horror-oriented, but they use a fixed camera angle to create a sensation of lack of control in the game so that things can jump out at you and scare you. And what's important about The Suffering is that they have you in a full control 3D camera, and you can actually switch into a first-person mode as well. And that gives you a true action game feel so that you can be targeting and shooting and going anywhere that you want.
What we really try to do is combine action and survival horror into sort of one game and then sort of evolve the horror genre.
One of the things people are really going to pick up on how clever our creature design was. We did work with Stan Winston. We did Predator, Alien, Terminator, Edward Scissorhands, Interview with a Vampire. I mean, definitely the grandfather of Hollywood creature design.
It was great to have someone from the outside who's got experience in other media to look at what we were doing and really bring it to a new level for the whole project.
prison feel and tone is really a representation of the feel of the game. Everything ties in together, and this game really turned out incredibly well.
It's very shocking in terms of how graphic and mature it is, with the incredible gory horror elements and elements that like a prison would bring. It's just a crazy combination. This definitely has, I guess, the worst of both worlds.
Blood?